This is the Truth Radio Network. The Truth Radio Network. Your home for compelling Christian news talk with an edge.
Look around and tell me what you see. Every day, more people in the street. Said I used to work in a factory. Right now, I don't work for anything. I wish to feed. Not much, 'cause we've got simple needs. Too bad they sent our jobs away. As the CEOs get richer, and our jobs all move offshore. We go to the store and spend our money. Send all the dollars overseas. This ain't the land of milk and honey. This is the land of trading greed. Got his college degree. He dreamed of running a factory. Now he's back home, living with Mama Ken. 'Cause there's no bright future for a working man like him. Oh, go to the store and spend our money. Send all the dollars overseas. And this ain't the land of milk and honey. This is the land of trade and greed. We go to the store and spend our money. Dollars overseas. Whoa, this was the land of milk and honey, and now it's the land of trade and greed.
Oh, unmuted. Okay. Well, I don't hear Jay talking, so I presume he thinks he's connected to
Oh,
the
you know
board.
what? I had been running my mouth, did a little opening monologue. The love and the joy and the headaches of live radio at time, folks. Hey, welcome in, everyone. I said Happy New Year, Joe. Our first show of the new year.
Happy New Year, Jay. And you can tell people this is live radio. It doesn't get any better than this.
Yes, indeed.
it's been a pretty strange start for the new year. Wow, weather's just like non-existent. Our winter is, we should have like a foot of snow here on the ground here in Kansas, and we got nothing. I got weeds coming up from the sunlight today.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been nice and mild here too in southeast Michigan. We've gotten a little bit of snow here and there. I mean, there's maybe 2 inches, 2.5 on the ground total, and that's over the last few days. Being shoveled, a little dusting here and there. Temperature-wise, it's been kind of cold. A little bit colder than I'm used to, being from the north. But we've got the mild temperatures coming in, Joe, like you've got there in Kansas. We've got them rolling in tomorrow and late today and tomorrow and part of Saturday, and then back cold again. We get them Alberta Clippers, as they call them, roaring through here. So we get them quite often. So we're going to get back down below freezing again for about a week, and then back up, I guess, again around freezing or above. And it's funny living, this far north during the winter. When you say it, it sounds funny, but it's so true. Man, I wish it would just get to freezing so it would feel a little bit warmer, because there's a difference, between 15 and 32 degrees. There's a huge difference. Once it gets below 15 or 10 degrees, there's just no difference if it gets any lower. It's just cold. There's no degrees. It's about 15 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 with no wind, 10 degrees with a wind, or 15 the other way around. You know what I mean? 15 without a wind, 10 with the wind. It's cold. So to me that's you stay inside with a pot or two of coffee, hot coffee, and just keep pumping the hot coffee into you. But I can't complain, brother. It's been a really decent winter so far this year. And if I were superstitious, I would cross my toes, my fingers, my eyes, my legs, my shoes, my shoelaces rather, whatever I would cross to make sure it would stay like this. But I'm not superstitious.
Yeah,
I'll just take whatever we get.
It's got to be that climate change that El Bozo was talking about in the State of the Union Express or notice last week, or what was it, Monday?
No, see, Joe, you can't talk bad about O'Blamer like that. He's on his whirlwind retirement tour.
Yeah.
And at the same time he's campaigning for the United Nations General Secretary job, because he will get it. That's one of my predictions. It's one of my grand predictions I made a couple years ago on these very airwaves, and he's bucking for that position. So,
well, he was president before of the UN. I don't know if he gave up that position, but he wasn't supposed to. He wasn't supposed to be head of the UN and head of the United States.
It actually wasn't the head of the UN, Joe. It was the head of the rotating presidency of the UN Security Council.
That was
that's the UN Security Council, which rotates, and no president before him has taken that. Bush has passed on it, Clinton had passed on it, Bush had passed on it, Reagan had passed on it. It just wasn't something that a U.S. president did, because we weren't part of that global one world system of government just that yet. To where now, when it happened, folks were a little bit outraged, but we're part of a global community now, Joe. We're part of a global community. Think local or think global, act local, some crap like that. I don't know what their tree hugging mantra is, but yeah, we're all part of a global community. So when stuff like that happens, nobody bats an eyelash. Go ahead, bro. I've been running my mouth.
Oh, it's like that. South Park, when they take Stan in to put his money into a savings account. Oh, and it's gone. It's gone. Dirt one, it's gone. Yeah. No, it's Hillary's not going to get charged if she is. I think that he's got no choice but to pull a false flag to keep his party propped up so that he can continue to dismantle America. Sorry, it's whatever.
Oh no, Joe. You know what? I think, with all due respect, brother, I think you and anyone else who thinks that you're totally wrong. And this is, I'm going to give you my reasoning, and it's so simple, even I can understand it. Obama's not going to do anything to keep himself in office. The reason being is the next president is going to be the one that, like, totally divides this country to where it couldn't be divisible anymore. And I think the general election, I know there's a lot of talk about Hillary, and this even goes against what I had said before, but I think Bernie's got a good chance. And if it's Bernie against Donald Trump, then who's ever the winner out of that election, you'll get a good idea of where the country's headed.
Well, we're going down, people. We're going down.
Oh yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm that guy. I'm that guy in your prepper group that you don't. Well, you're all gonna die. You're all gonna die.
Hey, well, sorry, we're not part of the prepper elite. We are practical preppers. We're practical preppers, and it's going to hit the fan in some degree or another, and it's going to affect you.
I've been following the Canadian markets, and Zero Hedge did a really, really good article the other day on Canadian food prices and how they've just went through the roof. Their dollar is showing the hidden inflation, and now the people are starting to pay for it, and it's sticker shock. It's just get ready, you know. Prep for your family, prep for your neighbors. None of us are an island. We got to make this a community effort.
Exactly.
Remember, the people. There are people that are going to be helpful, and there are going to be people that are not going to be helpful. And I hope you determine which are in and which are out already, because it's getting to the point where they're going to be banging on your door here soon.
Well, they pretty much do, Joe. It depends on which ordinance or which rule or which regulation you're cited for in the land of the free here. You know, I mean, you can get a knock on the door.
Are we still that? Are we still land of the free?
You can get a knock on the door.
I didn't get that email.
Yeah, I missed it too. But I mean, you can get a knock on the door if your grass is too high, if your car is parked too far down your driveway and your bumper might be on the sidewalk. You know, silly things like that. But yeah, we're the land of the free, where you have to have a permit or permission to do just about everything now. Everything. Now, the one thing you don't need permission for just yet, and one thing you don't need a permit for, and for most of it, is prepping. And we're not talking about just prepping for it hits the fan, but we're talking about for everyday life. You never know what's going to happen. You know, you could lose your job. You could be laid off. I know some industries are doing well, Joe. The mining industry, the oil industry, those jobs are taking big hits right now because the prices have just totally bottomed out. I mean, silver is under $14 an ounce, oil around 35, or less on a barrel. And with that, you know, a lot of jobs are lost. So you got to make sure you prepare.
Oh yeah, and it's people are you know, they're enjoying these real low gas prices, but I mean, there's a reason you're not paying a lot for gas, because there's not a lot of a market for it. Our economy is attached to the petrodollar, and our buying power is going down every day. So get what you can now while you can, and prep for the worst, pray for the best.
Yeah, Joe, that reminds me of a point I wanted to bring up. You were talking about the Canadian food prices rising and whatnot. If you've noticed, most likely in your area, prices of a lot of food staples have dropped. So now is a good time, if you can afford it, to stock up on a lot of things. I know meat has gone down considerably. Products with flour have gone down considerably. Dairy products have gone down considerably. So now is a good time to stock up if you can.
Oh, after Christmas is always a good time to stock up. I hit the sales. If I can pay 30% less than somebody was paying 2 weeks ago, I'll wait. Get it now while you can. Next time you see it or go out down that aisle, it's going to cost more or it's going to be less for the same price. So get your preps while you can, and do not underestimate the power and the buying of your toilet paper and your medical preps. All that stuff is going to be worth 100 times its weight in gold, especially your medical preps. And if you have a significant other who's female or you're female, you know that you need your toilet paper and your feminine products, and there are very few substitutes for such. So act accordingly and purchase accordingly.
Absolutely. So, Joe, there's another edition of the Running of the Clowns tonight, I believe it is.
Oh, is
there? Yeah, on Fox Business Network, I believe it is. Fox Business Channel, whatever they call it. Yeah, another edition of the presidential candidate debates for the Republicans. And Rand Paul, I'm not a huge Rand Paul fan, but I did notice this because they're trying to Ron Paul him is what they're trying to do, which is a verb. Rand Paul said he didn't make the cut. They're going to put 7 candidates on the stage, and 3 of them are going to do this little minor debate. He said he won't even make the trip. I don't blame him for that. This guy.
Oh, come on. Just musical chairs. Get everybody on stage and take away one chair, stop the music. It's all a game, people. It's all a game. You're being played.
Yeah, but I'll give Rand Paul credit. He said he's not going to make the trip if that's the case. If he's going to be relegated to the junior varsity debate, I give him credit because they're trying to railroad him like they did his dad. And man, you look back at the old man, the good Dr. Ron Paul, and there were so many things that he got right, Joe. And he was just on the money with so many things.
I think we might be in a better place than we are today if he'd have been put in, but we know that presidents aren't elected; they're selected because it's cheaper to change the dynamics of a community than it is to change the votes, And just look at Illinois. You know how hard it is to get people who've died off the voting ballot. Are still recorded at their county seats as active voters, although they've been deceased for 20 years.
Unituber in the chat room makes a great point. Hello, Una. Good to see you. She says, not sure why anyone but Trump, Rubio, Cruz, and Carson are even bothering to keep running. What a waste of funds that could be put to much better use. Exactly. And, I really don't even think anyone but Trump or Cruz have a chance in this selection. I just don't think. And another point that she makes, anything's better than where we are today. If we have just those 4 to pick from, well, it's good. That's a tough choice. It's like picking which caliber of bullet you want to shoot yourself with. And Rusty wants to chime in. We said something that perked his ears up, so I want to bring our buddy Rusty on the line. Rusty, I didn't have time to play your little soundbite. I'll find it in just a minute. But how you doing, brother? Good to hear from you. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you guys. I hope you can hear me okay. I got kind of a new setup for my truck, so.
Yeah, hang on 1 second, brother.
Yes. Oh, in that case, my name is Rusty Shackelford.
All right, now back to Rusty Shackelford. Rusty, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing all right, and you kind of did perk my ears up when you were talking about the oil industry and how bad it is. And, I'm again living pretty much on my preps because I have no income. I got laid off. So I'm going to have to line it up. I'm getting ready to, I think, and another thing, we kind of always talk about if you can't find a job, make your own. And that's kind of what I'm in the process of doing too. I'm going to start Uber driving as soon as the state of Montana approves it. So I'll be self-employed and at least I'll have money in. And that way I figure I could take advantage of the low fuel prices until they go up. And then when they go up, I go back in the oil field. But yeah, I can't stress the prepping enough for bad times. This is the second time in my life that I've had to live on my storage. I'm fortunate. I had a couple of years. I'll be all right. And, the only thing I really stopping by is, dairy, and I like cheese, so you can't really store cheese too much. But, dairy, and I got 3 freezers full of deer.
Yeah,
and
you can
buffalo,
freeze.
So.
You can freeze cheese, brother. You can buy it in a block and freeze it. I do it all the time.
I've tried that with brie cheese, and it just doesn't. It comes out grainy. I guess maybe
you've got to do it with a harder cheese. It's got to be harder.
Okay.
It's got to be a cheese. It's got to be a more common cheese. I'm sure there are ways to freeze brie, but I can't afford that, brother. No, I'm not a big cheese fan anyway. I'm not a big cheese fan anyway. I use cheese for cooking, and that's about it. Yeah, I use cheese for cooking. That's about it.
Yeah, I like cheese. I like to make a lot of dishes with, cheese, using cheese as an enhancement or, to add some fat and flavor to things. So, especially I have found that brie cheese on a really rare deer steak is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. So, but I just can't stress it, guys, because I don't see things getting better. I mean, we can have our Muslim and chief stand up there and tell us that things are going good. But, right now we have the lowest worker participation rate since the early 1970s.
Exactly.
They might say it's 5% unemployment, but we got approximately 38% of working age people in the United States not working right now. That's not good. It's just because they've jockeyed the numbers,
Exactly, and it's not going to get better, and I've just prayed that people will open their eyes and start putting stuff away, and make a plan, people. The last word you want to hear is, "We're here from the government to help you." That's before they put you onto that bus to the FEMA camp.
Well, you shouldn't have to. There's a situation going on here in Flint with the water situation. I'm not going to get off political about it because there's a whole bunch of blame to go around. But if you were a prepper and you lived in Flint, the water crisis probably isn't affecting you right now.
Jay, I got to ask you on that. Can you kind of give us an overview of what's going on? I'm kind of keeping up, and I hear bits and pieces, but as folks know, I really don't watch.
Okay.
But I know that
this is it.
Lead contamination.
This is it in a nutshell. Flint, similar to Detroit, was mismanaged and misrun for many, many years. Flint used to supply their own water from the Flint River. They switched over to the Detroit water system to give water from the Detroit River. The Detroit water system supplies a lot of the communities around with city water. So what happened is the people of the city of Flint started having financial problems. There was an emergency financial manager appointed there, same as there was in Detroit, to help guide it through its bankruptcy. One of the moves that he made to cut the cost, or to cut some of the cost, was to take Flint off of Detroit water, put them back on Flint water as a cost-cutting move. Like I said, there's plenty of blame to go around, and that's the problem. Reverting back to the Flint water was the problem. So now lead has supposedly leached into the drinking water there in Flint, and it's become a full-blown crisis. I mean, it really is. You can't cook with it, you can't bathe with it, you can't drink it. The only thing you do is flush it, and people are still having to pay their water bill. So it's a situation that spiraled out of control. But it was done out of necessity at the time, you know. And I'm not saying the decision makers were blameless at all in this. I remember before it happened, before they went back to the Detroit water, you know, there was a lot of problems switching from Detroit to Flint in the first place. So it's a sad situation that could have easily been avoided from everyone involved. But one of the biggest problems, similar to Detroit here, was mismanagement and misuse of tax revenues and other revenues where the infrastructure could have been kept up to where that didn't happen. If you're going to start passing blame around, you got to go all the way to the root cause, and the root cause was neglect.
Well, one thing about it, though, lead's nasty, I understand that, but it is relatively easy to filter from the water, you know, with filter systems. Do they know if it's sourced from the piping system where they use, you know, lead? Because a lot of companies use, you know, lead solder and all that to put in the plumbing. Do they know if that's the source, or if it's a naturally leaching source from the river, or do they know?
I'm sorry, brother. I was typing in the chat room. Una had asked me a question. What was your question again? And then I'm going to answer hers.
Is the lead, is it sourced from?
Okay, it's the pipes. It's the pipes.
So
it's the pipes.
So
what had happened? From what I understand from what had happened was when they had switched back to the Flint River water, they didn't pre-treat the pipes to prevent leaching of lead. I guess there's some kind of pre-treatment, or you know, I'm not a scholar on this. You know, and then Una asked the question. She goes, the question is, was Snyder aware of the lead leaching when he made the call to switch back to the Flint River? It wasn't Snyder. It was his emergency financial manager, but he didn't do anything without Snyder's approval. But according to what I heard yesterday and the day before, Snyder or somebody close to him involved with this knew, and the EPA knew 9 months before they made the switch that there was the possibility of some issues. That's all. Criminal. That's all that I've heard.
Criminal.
So yeah, we'll see. But that's just. I mean, my heart goes out. My heart goes out to anybody having to deal with this problem. And I'm not going to say, I told you so. But you know, take it as a lesson for the rest of us. You know, get a damn water filter.
Yeah, exactly. Lead is really pretty easy to filter because it is a heavy metal, and heavy metals do filter out pretty easy. They filter out a lot easier than fluoride or chloramines or some of the junk that they're actually adding to the water. Lead, mercury, and the heavy metals are really pretty easy to filter out, and you really don't even have to have that advanced of a filter system to make the water drinkable. The problem is the bathing, and because you don't want to bathe with lead water, and of course, in washing your clothes, that kind of stuff, you're exposing yourself to the lead that way. And for something like that, you would almost have to have a whole house water filter system, and they're pretty spendy.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Well, brother, you don't even have to get the whole house filter. You can invest in a big Berkey for under $300. You can get a big Berkey. If you got the money, you can get a couple of them. You can probably find a good deal on a special on if you buy two of them. You can do it. Get the travel Berkey. There's filtration isn't that expensive to where you shouldn't have some source of water filtration.
Exactly.
Hard to filter enough water to bathe with a Berkey, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's where sponge baths come in. I mean, that's where sponge baths come in. I mean, you just have to. You won't have the creature comforts. I mean, not all of us have an 8-room custom cabin, Rusty. Like some of our prepper elite friends. I won't mention their names because I'm not that kind of guy. But yeah, I mean, hey, anyway, back to the show.
No, but
that was
everybody
really important. I'm glad you brought that topic up because, water is important. Water is important here where I live, even though I live on the Missouri River and it's snowing like heck right now and we got plenty of water available. It's not always that way. We have to deal with different set of situations than a lot of folks. Water storage freezes, and believe me, you leave water in a 2-liter bottle in the back of your truck when it's 40 below zero. It doesn't take long for the inside of your truck to get coated with ice, So there are other issues, but water is important no matter where you live.
It is, and it falls into the rule of threes. 3 days without water, so prep accordingly. But you should have some on hand, period.
Well, yeah. And it's easy. I mean, if you drink, Cokes or stuff, which I don't really drink out of 2-liter bottles, but I do get the 2-liter bottles of club soda because I really like club soda, and just with a little lime and some vodka and a little bit of pomegranate juice, and that way is the best way to drink club soda. But you can take those 2-liter bottles and rinse them out and store your water that way. That's what I do, and it's cheap. You can store it right out of the tap if you want. I'm fortunate in the community that I live, they don't fluoridate the water here, so.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. No, I'm running my Berkey and with fluoride filters, and I use my my old juice containers. They're BPA free. They'll store 6 months without any problems, and then after that, it's still water. It's still drinkable. It just doesn't taste right out of the Berkey fresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you can always run them through again,
Yeah. Or that's the nice thing about water is once you've got it clean, it's nothing to aerate it again. You pour it from one jug to another jug, do that a few times, and it brings back life back into the water. It's just the oxygen, you're putting fresh oxygen back into the water. That's part of what it is.
And to your point, Rusty, about 2-liter bottles here in Michigan, those are 10-cent deposit, brother.
Yeah, I hear you do that out there.
Worth
That's
that 10
weird.
cents. Worth that 10 cents to set it aside. Save them.
Yeah, we got a deposit here on them. But if you want to look at it as far as the cost of storage containers, 10 cents for a 2-liter jug to store water in is not a bad cost if you just want to keep them.
Exactly.
But me, I would rather take them back to my deposit. Una said the deposit's paid for. Wrong topic. Anyway, the 10-cent deposit. I'm a miser. Not cheapskate. I'm frugal. That's the chic word. I'm frugal. Yeah, so I'd rather take my bottles back, get my moolah for it. I usually don't get the money for it. It usually just goes towards grocery bill, whatever I'm buying.
There you go.
Right.
That happens to us all, and every little bit helps. Especially if you've been shopping lately.
Oh my God! I was just talking about that the other day. I'm sitting here in the middle of Montana, which is, I believe we're the second or the third largest beef producer in the country. I think we're number one now in wheats and barleys, the cereal grains. And and lamb, we're a huge lamb producer. I can't afford lamb. I love lamb, but I think the last lamb I saw down here was $11.50 a pound, Beef, if you're lucky, you can catch beef for $3.90 a pound or $3.50 a pound, somewhere in that range. And I don't even. Of course, I don't eat wheat anymore. I can't. But I don't know what bread costs, but the gluten-free breads are about $7 a loaf.
Yeah, they're expensive. Those kind of breads, gluten-free. See, I'm not restricted to any kind of diet, so I don't have to pay that. But I do get I'm talking about being frugal, but bakery bread is something, and coffee, that's another thing. Those are two things that I splurge on, that I spend money on. I go for quality over quantity when it comes to bakery bread, because we have a couple of good bakeries around here that make really good bread, and I do like bread, so I get bakery fresh bread instead of store-bought bread. And then, of course, coffee. Can't get enough coffee. Coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee.
I do a lot of coupon shopping. I did. I don't, like I said, the only thing I'm getting at the store nowadays are dairy, things that are perishables, And just so you guys know, butter freezes real well also. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I keep a pound or so around at all times just for cooking purposes. Because I cook with just butter and olive oil.
I got lucky about 4 months ago, and they had one of these little, it's kind of like a doorbuster type thing, loyal customer, and they had pounds of organic butter. It wasn't just butter, but it was good organic BHPT-free butter and all that for $1.50 a pound, and that's really a good price. And we were limited to 10, but I made a couple of trips down there and filled the freezer with blocks of butter. So I got butter to last me for quite a while.
Cool.
And that's
really good.
You can actually can butter and store it that way. But I highly recommend, folks. I'm gonna get off the air here and quit hassling you. But
you know what? I had a question for you before you took off there, Rusty. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. That's right. I'm just gonna kind of push that people need to store. You might think that what you have right now is a stable job or a stable financial path. Believe me, coming from a guy that thought that the oil field was going to be there forever, and because we all use fuel and we all use plastics, I've got a lot of experience, got a lot of years in the oil field. I never thought it would happen to me again. So,
yeah. Well, we hope you start back to work soon here, Rusty, and you're in our prayers. So keep it up, bro.
Yeah, definitely, brother.
If anybody gets to Great Falls, Montana, and gets an Uber driver, I'll be going into town every day and driving Uber. So it'll probably be me. Right now, I'm the only one signed up to do it. So
really,
cool.
Well, that's good. Yep. Hey, Uber Rusty.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you something, brother. I don't mean to be touching on a sore subject with you, but what's your outlook for the oil industry coming up? I mean, has it bottomed yet, or?
No. Like I said before, 29 is the bottom, and we haven't hit it yet. We're sitting at, now we're close. We're sitting right at 30. But here's the problem. There's been some dynamics changed a little bit too, and I'm not trying to back off my prediction of 29 being the bottom.
No, that's fine. Hey, I am a master at making wrong predictions. I've turned it into an art form.
Yeah, I know. Me too. But I don't think we've hit the bottom on oil, and I don't think 29 is going to be the bottom now. And I said 29. I've been saying 29 for quite a while. I think the bottom's going to be probably closer to 19, maybe even 15. Because what we're having right now is we're seeing they're flooding the market. I mean, they're absolutely flooding the markets from the Middle East. Now we're exporting oil, which I think is a positive thing for the United States. It may be the savior of some of these oil companies, which I'm sure people hate the oil companies, but, they're in it just like everybody else. They got problems right now. And I really do think that probably the bottom is going to be maybe around 15. But I really do believe that once we hit that bottom, it's going to be a pretty quick recovery. We're not expanding our oil exploration at all right now. So I think that probably this glut will go away here within a year or so, and then I think we'll see a rapid increase again. But right now, for the foreseeable future, I don't see any respite. And you know, it's not only that, but we've got a crappy economy. I mean, I don't care how they're spinning the numbers. We don't have a good economy right now.
Right.
Which means that we're having less travel, we're using less fuel, we're using less plastics. So the demand is way down, and they'll admit that the demand is way down, and the supply is way up, which is a big part of why we have such low prices right now. You know, enjoy it. It's not going to be there forever, but enjoy it.
Yeah. So, Rusty, or Joseph, or both you guys, you feel free to answer this question. Put your tinfoil hats on, or tighten them up, or whatever. But Rusty, you said that they are flooding the market. Who is they, and why do you think they are flooding the market?
Well, when we say they, I like to think the oil conglomerates, the overseas oil conglomerates. But we're seeing, you know, we're knowing, or we're hearing more about the Turks taking in oil out of the ISIS-controlled areas and dumping it on the market for, you know, half price. So that doesn't help with the price. And it's illegal what they're doing, but they're doing it anyhow. And I really believe that our Muslim in chief is I think he's just looking the other way. The second thing is we're seeing the Saudis, they have to maintain a certain level of income because 95% of the Saudis, 95% of the employment force works for the government over there. The government takes in the oil revenue, the government employs everybody, the government pays all of their employees, and you have a lot of fluff on the payroll. Those folks are going to have to continue to dump, and it doesn't matter. They don't care what they're getting for a price because they got to keep the revenue coming in. And I think the third factor that's really important is that we're starting to see the Iranian oil now flooding the markets too. And the Iranians, the freer markets, they were flooding the Russian market, and the Russians were dumping it, but it was a long process and it was a little more expensive. Right now, and I'm not sure if it's hitting the world markets yet, but the Iranians are going to flood the market with cheap oil because they've already got their infrastructure in. You know, when you're digging a well with a bunch of guys in an old beat up drilling rig that's been paid off for 50 years, you don't have the overhead that we have here in the United States, and then the environmental control, the care of the land, and that kind of stuff. So I think those three things, we've got OPEC and Saudi Arabia, we got the ISIS flooding the market through Turkey, and that infrastructure is all there. They have no overhead. They got slave labor. They pull it out of the ground. They just dump it, truck it into Syria or to Turkey, and Turkey's royal family is dumping it into the market through Turkey, and then the Iranian thing too. So that's my opinion, and I talk too much. I get to talking about oil. I get excited. So
good observation.
That's my observation. You know.
Good observation. I don't see it getting better. I'm just glad I'm sitting on what I'm sitting on, and say my prayers every night that people wake up and are thinking about more than you know, what's on the boob tube next week.
Yeah, I mean, there's other factors. I'm not saying that those are the only ones. The Russians are always a wild card. They're a huge oil producing country. They can, with a couple of words, affect oil prices. And I firmly also. Yeah, I mean, they're a huge oil producer, and they have relatively low overhead also. I'm going to give the Russians a lot of credit here. They're very, very efficient at what they do, and their oil exploration models are much more efficient than what we use. They have a whole different view on oil. They look at oil as an abiotic product, not a dead dinosaur product like we do, and they're obviously something to it because they are much more efficient on their drilling and their exploration end of things.
Yeah, I was going to mention Russia. I'm glad you brought Russia up because they one of the theories that I had floated early on with the flooding of the market was to to cripple the or to at least deal a blow to the Russian oil industry. But with the devaluation of the ruble and everything, Russia seems to be chugging along just fine, like you said, Rusty.
Well, they have a different economic model on things, and the Russians, here in the United States, and it's hard to explain if you haven't been in the drilling industry, but here in the United States, something breaks, and on one of these drilling rigs, we go out and buy a new one. And I've been around Russians. Something breaks on a Russian rig, they don't go out and buy a new one. They fix it. They'll use stuff until it's not usable anymore and cannot be repaired.
The heck you say?
Yeah,
what?
Imagine that.
That's unheard of nowadays in this disposable world.
You're right.
Yeah, they used to call it Yankee ingenuity.
The Russians have done without for so long. During the Cold War era, the Russians couldn't get anything. They had food lines. So these folks have learned to be frugal, repair things, use stuff over and over, and they're taking that model that they had during the Cold War and the Stalin era, and they're pushing it forward into a modern economy, and they're being very successful with it. I believe, and don't get me wrong, I think the last time I looked it up, but the Russian cost of what we call a lift cost, which is the cost of their barrel of oil, what it costs them to get that oil out of the ground, get it to the market, was around $2. So
wow.
At $3, they're making a profit. So I don't think they can drop it. Right. I don't think they can drop it far enough to cripple the Russian economy. Now at $100, they're doing real well. But still, at $30, they're still doing pretty well when they're making a $28 a barrel profit. Now, I'm not condoning the Russian way of doing things. They use they're basically using the old Soviet system where the state owns everything. There is no
pretty much
private.
The state owns everything here too, Rusty. We can't think of and the state pretty much has their hands in a lot of industry here as well, as far as price regulating and fixing prices and things like that go. But you're right. The Russians have been at it for a lot longer. They're very skilled at it, and they have integrated it into their society. Your point was that the Russian people and their culture and their society have gone without for so long that they've made been able to make use and make do with what they have, and that's something that's been lost in the Western world. And now that's kind of taking over parts of the Asian world as well. This consumerist mentality.
Right. Well, and
disposable society. Go ahead, bro. Sorry.
Well, back in the day, we looked at the Russians of basically only producing two things that were market worthy, and those two things were the AK-47 and Russian vodka, and that basically was what and maybe beluga caviar. Those three things are the things that we think of when we think of Russia. But now, and when you go down and buy stuff, look at where stuff is sourced and where it's coming from. You start seeing made in Russia or CIS. That's another one that you'll see. Product of the CIS, which is the Commonwealth of Independent States, which is the new modern buzzword for Russia. You start seeing products and agricultural products from Russia. And I will buy Russian agricultural products because they have a ban on all genetically modified organisms, as well as a lot of the real nasty chemicals that we use here in the United States. Their food is cleaner. So we're starting to see exports out of Russia now. They're getting their canning industry, their agricultural packaging industry. They're just in the infancy. And I think when the next 10 years, we're going to start seeing that become one of their products. They have an unlimited supply of energy with all the natural gas and oil. And they have basically an unlimited supply of labor because they have a, relatively large, not unemployed, but group of people that will work for next to nothing. So I think Russia's going to run into a problem here in the next 10 years where they're going to start running out of labor. However, they have incentives in Russia to have children. They pay families to have children, and so they're forward-looking. We're looking forward-looking by bringing in immigrants, and I'm not saying anything bad about any group of immigrants, but the immigrants that we're bringing in are not the kind of immigrants that we need for our future. I'm sorry. You know, we need the educated. We need the people from India, from Europe, from, you know, Southeast Asia. They're wanting to come here and work. I don't think bringing folks from Syria and Pakistan that are here under another agenda that don't want economic freedom is an answer to the problem.
Well, we won't criticize anybody's agenda, but it seems like it's immigrate, infiltrate, caliphate.
Yeah. Right. And you know, we cause these problems, man. I mean, I
yes.
hate to say that. I hate knocking my country. I love my country. But if we wouldn't have been over there sticking our finger in the poop pot all over the country and all over those Middle East countries, we wouldn't have the problems we have today. I mean, we've destabilized the whole area. Iraq, we've destabilized Iran somewhat. Syria, we destabilized Lebanon. We've destabilized Egypt, Morocco, all of North Africa. That Arab Spring crap was our doing. Gaddafi, as much as he was kind of a weird little fella, kept that country in shape. And now look what we see coming out of Libya. I mean, it's basically a Muslim Brotherhood / ISIS-controlled area. It wasn't that way under Gaddafi. He wouldn't put up for it. He protected the minorities. So this is almost, in my opinion, a concerted effort against minorities. When I say minorities, I'm talking religious minorities, the Alawites, the Christians, the Druze, the Jews, the Maronites, those groups of people. This is a concerted effort to get them wiped out. And in some places now, in those countries that we've destabilized, they no longer have those communities. They've been destroyed. And I fear for people in Lebanon because the Lebanese people have always been very, you know, about a third of the population is Christian, and they were a very vibrant part of the community, and they're being systematically destroyed. Those are the people
systematically terminated.
Yeah, we need to bring those people in, not the people that are destroying them. You know, my opinion.
All right, sorry guys, my call had dropped just briefly there. It happens every once in a while. Thanks, Blog Talk Radio. We love you. Oh boy, I had to dial back in because it's still showing that I'm dialed in as the host, but I'm not. It hung up on me. Yeah, it happens a lot. So I'm prepared. I am prepared for it. Part of prepping. Hey, I've been using Google Hangouts, folks. Google Voice. You can make free landline and free mobile phone calls using your Chromebook, or if you have a Google Voice account. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. It's a lot better than Skype. Of course, Skype is still Skype. So, but anyway, we're down to the last 7 minutes of the show.
I was just going to say 2 tin cans and a string are better than Skype, aren't they?
I'm not putting Skype on this computer, and it's running great, and I'm going to keep it that way. I can't emphasize on the importance of your preps, people, and it doesn't have to be a national emergency. I mean, Rusty's living proof, and I don't mean to make you a poster boy, Rusty, but you know, stuff happens, and we're glad that we have our preps when we have, you know, when we can fall back on them. And being without a job in a major industry is a good reason to have preps. Period. My spiel is you know, it's going to be a community effort. You know, figure out who's in your lifeboat and you know, prop them up, give them support. Remember your pets, your elderly, and your neighbors. So with that, get down and do some private time with the good Lord Jesus Christ and check your email. Love you all. Thanks, Rusty, for calling in. I was really interested on your input on what the market was doing and how it was going and so forth. Thank you. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Rusty. Joseph, another great show as always, brother. Check your email, check your email, check your email. I love it. That's one of my favorite sayings. Check your email. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on our first show back this year. Joe and I will be back next Thursday. Same crazy time, same crazy channel, 2 Eastern, 1 Central. Swift kick in the afternoon with 2 grumpy older men. And maybe next week we'll find out who's the grumpiest, huh, Joe?
Okay, we'll
Maybe.
try.
You never know. You never know. Hey, thanks to all of our listeners. We appreciate you hanging out. 5.5 years here on the Truth Radio Network, rolling up on 6 years, and what a fun, exciting time it's been for all of us. Looking forward to doing more shows with you. Hey, don't forget the sermon show Sunday morning, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, for classic sermons, some as old as 150, 160 years old. And live chat fellowship, come check us out for that. And Army Girl and I will be back next Tuesday. So next week, Tuesday, Thursday, 2 Central, and 2 Eastern, 1 Central. I was reading the chat room. Nice to have you stopping in. Call in anytime. Open invitation. Same thing with Rusty, brother.
Please
same
call.
thing with you. Yeah, same thing with you, Rusty. Open invitation anytime. And as well, if anyone else wants to call in, 646-378-0749 during the live show here. We do it just about every Thursday, 2 Eastern, 1 Central, and we don't mind taking calls. Now, if we let Rusty call, we'll let anybody call just about. And I only say that. I only say that because he's still on the line and we're still chatting away, So down to the last 3.5 minutes. Hey, why don't I take us out with a little song we all should know and love. We'll see you this weekend for the sermon show. If not, we'll see you next Tuesday or Thursday here. Visit our website, thetruthradionetwork.com, www.thetruthradionetwork.com. Take care and God bless, folks. See you next time.
The preacher man says it's the end of time, and the Mississippi River, she's a going dry. The interest is up and the stock market down, and you're only getting mugged if you go downtown. I live back in the woods, you see, a woman and the kids and the dogs and me. I got a shotgun, a rifle, and a four-wheel drive, and a country boy can survive. Country folks can survive. I can plow a field all day long. I can catch catfish from dusk till dawn. Make our own whiskey and our own smoke too. Ain't too many things these old boys can't do. We grow good old tomatoes and homemade wine, and country boy can survive. Country folks can survive. Because you can't starve us out and you can't make us run. Those wooden old boys raised on shotgun. We say grace, we say ma'am. If you ain't into that, we don't give a damn. We came from the West Virginia coal mines and the Rocky Mountains and the western sky. And we can skin a buck, we can run a trot line, and a country boy can survive. Country folks can survive. I had a good friend in New York City. He never called me by my name, just Hillbilly. My grandpa taught me how to live off the land, and his taught him to be a businessman. He used to send me pictures of the Broadway night, and I'd send him some homemade wine. But he was killed by a man with a switchblade knife. For $43, my friend lost his life. I'd love to spit some beach nuts in that dude's eye.
This is the Truth Radio Network. The Truth Radio Network, your home for for compelling Christian news talk with an edge.